So PS and I were just talking about manufacturing a little bit more. Buy Kenya, build Kenya is a concept that has been pushed for years now, with a lot of manufacturers urging Kenyans to consume some of the products that are already being made locally. Let's take a look at what Kenyans had to say. We did go and ask them, what did you have to say about Buy Kenya, build Kenya? Do engage with us on our socials, but let's hear what they had to say first.
Ni muhimu wa serikali kusupport local industry ili hao watu, maana ile kitu ambayo inawaletea shida ni pesa ama rasilimali, na ndiposa tunaona kama serikali inahujumu local manufacturer kwa sababu wanaingiza ama wamepatiana mamlaka ya vitu vinakuwa vinatoka nje, alafu zile manufacturer ambazo ziko katika taifa letu la Kenya tunaona zinaendelea kufifia. Na ndio tunaona hii mambo ya mashindano kati ya nchi za nje na nchi yetu, tunaona wenyeji serikali inastahili kusupport Kenyans ambao wako na hayo maarifa, ili kitambo waende China tuegeze kwa hao manufacturer ambao ni locals, ili waweze kujisaidia hata kujibu wengi katika taifa letu la Kenya.
Hapa Kenya katika nchi yetu, our industries zile tuko nazo is about 25%. Vitu mingi zile zinatoka hapa ni about 25%. Kwa hivyo almost 75% ni za kutoka nje. Na hiyo mimi naona sasa hapo hatujengi nchi yetu vile inastahili. Pia ningependa serikali yetu tukufu ambayo tunaipenda ijaribu kuwa na industry mingi, ndio tuwe tukitengeneza vitu mbalimbali, na ndivyo hata watu wetu wao wakipata kazi kwa wingi.
Bidhaa za Kenya ambazo sisi tumejitengenezea ni zetu, sisi za kutoka nje. Ukinunua hizo bidhaa umenunua ama umesaidia mwananchi wa kawaida. Kwa hivyo utakuta vitu ambavyo imejengewa hapa, tuseme jua kali, wanaandika ati imetoka China. Hiyo ni kutuharibia industry zetu na hatutaki kamwe.
All right. Kenyans having different opinions about locally made products. There's something very interesting that they've pointed out that I'd just like to concentrate on. I'm sure there's a lot of aspects you can look into. Locally made products, which are, they would put made in China so that it's more marketable. What does that say about us as Kenyans when it comes to consuming our own products and loving our own products?
Yes, that is very important, that I've come across that. I have seen shoes that are made here in Karioko that are marked made in Turkey or made in Italy. Because the manufacturers have figured out that Kenyans don't love their product. We love this thing written made in America, made in the UK. We forget that the good product from China, the good product from another country, was developed because the people of that country spend their energy, their time, their money to really appreciate. So one of the things that I really want to tell Kenyans is the only way you can support, the only way that we can talk about good cost of living is for us to appreciate what is made in Kenya.
Right.
So you find Kenyan manufacturers are struggling to sell something because they know that a Kenyan thinks that anything made out of this country is good. But as I've said, every time you import a product, you export a job. We are creating jobs for other people. So my passionate plea to Kenyans is that, however, let me not use the word inferior.
Right.
Your product may not be as good, but this is what you have.
Right.
And every time you buy a product that's made from a Kenyan, you really encourage that person to invest more, to employ more, to buy more raw materials. And within the government circles, the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya is a very simple concept. What we have said is that 40% of all goods that are bought within government, whether it's KDF, police, Kenya Wildlife Service, Kenya Forest Service, our sagas, that this must be made in Kenya. So the rule in Kenya is all government agencies are required by law to buy 40% of their requirements of goods made within Kenya.
Right.
And they have to report on it every 3 months to say, I have bought made in Kenya. But we also want in our private life to appreciate that other people's products may sometimes look cheaper,
Right.
sometimes may look more superior, but Kenyan-made goods under the guidance of Kenya Bureau of Standards, because Kenya Bureau of Standards falls under my target, is that our products are world class.
Right.
I really want to ask the Kenyans to buy from Kenyans. The last issue I want to say, I've listened to that clip. We think that the work of industrializing Kenya is the work of government.
Right.
No. There is no country in the world that has grown its industrialization by government engaging in manufacturing.
Right.
Manufacturing is for the private sector. It's for you and me. The work of government is to provide a good policy environment, is to provide good regulations, a level playing field, so that each one of us, so when Kenyans have money to invest, I realize that now with the advent of devolved counties, everybody is building a hotel.
Right.
We want to say, please, Kenyans, invest in industry.
Right.
It may be a small thing for making toothpicks. It may be a small thing for making pencils, for making rubbers, for making shoes. The role of government is to be a good referee.
Right.
But the work of industrializing Kenya, and this is a question I always ask wherever I go, who is going to industrialize Kenya? It is the private person. So if the people of Kiambu cannot industrialize their county, if the people of Homa Bay cannot industrialize their county, if the people of Kakamega cannot think of how is it that we can add value to sugarcane and produce a product that is made within Kakamega by a private citizen, that is where we have missed it. China is not where it is because government is investing in manufacturing. India is not where it is. US, UK is where it is because the private people have invested in manufacturing.
Right. So, Dr. Juma, let's just focus on something here. Value addition, especially when it comes to the raw materials that we already have within the country, is very important, right? However, a lot of the people who are manufacturers, growers, producers of these raw materials find it more lucrative to export it rather than to, give it to local manufacturers simply because they're making more money. Policies and regulations could help some of these manufacturers look more lucrative towards these people. How exactly is the ministry coming in?
Two things to say about that. I agree with you that as a country and as a continent of Africa, we have lost quite a lot of opportunity by exporting our tea, our coffee, sometimes our flowers in raw form. But remember, part of the challenge that we have to be very, very clear, and we must look at each value chain. For example, if you look at coffee, you see, coffee is an old crop. Coffee is a crop that has been taken for the last 5,000 years. Coffee was not introduced into Kenya for Kenyans. Coffee was introduced into Kenya by, let's say, the British. So you'll find that if you go in the global market, there is English tea, there is English coffee, there is cappuccino. What you find here is that sometimes the reason why we're exporting the raw material as tea is that there is no way you can sit in Kenya and make tea for Spain and make tea for Portugal because the taste that is there is different. So sometimes you have to appreciate that some of these, if you look at the culture that is around coffee, it was never really our crop. It was a crop that was introduced here for the sake of those that had good use of that raw material. But so if you use coffee and you use tea, then what you realize is that this is a crop that was introduced by somebody else for his own use, and he had many, many thousands of years of making coffee. If you're making cappuccino, That's not our brand. So sometimes part of the challenge that we have is how do you adapt so that you can make globally acceptable coffee?
Right.
How do you make globally accepted tea brands within Kenya and sell to Portugal? For example, I will give you an example. We were in Japan and we found it very, very interesting. The Japanese were saying, we love Kenyan tea, the Kenyan tea, but the Kenyan tea that comes into our market is labeled in English.
Right.
So for them, they did not have any issue with the test. But the issue is that, and we have now been working with Kepropa, the branding agency in Kenya, to say, why should you sell Kenyan tea in Saudi Arabia that is not written in Arabic?
Right.
Why should you want to sell coffee in Portugal in English? So sometimes the issue is not even the test. The issue is how adaptable are we, our manufacturing, our manufacturers? So the question now that we have called to them to do is, please make sure that when you are producing for an external market, you cater for the test. If you're producing for the Portuguese market, you cater for that test, but also label your tea in Portuguese.
Right.
If you're selling to Spain, then you label it in Spanish. If you're selling it to Japan, please make it in Japanese. Because what we have realized is that the Japanese want to take your tea, they look at the tea, and sometimes they find that they can't read what you have written.
Right.
And that's all that is standing between us and that global market.
Right.
So those are the issues that we are really working with our manufacturers to make sure that they adopt, that they make use of, so that we can make progress.
Right. Dr. Juma, a question just came in from one of our viewers. He's asking, as far as industrialization is concerned, what measures is the government taking under PS Juma about Malakisi Ginnery in Bungoma, and why are Bungoma elected leaders talking of tribalism in that particular region?
Yes, we have a very clear path under the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. We have identified key value chains. We have identified cotton goes together with textile and apparel. We have the leather value chain. So we have identified priority value chains. Personally, as a PS for industry, I have been tasked to coordinate the efforts of the cotton, textile, and apparel. And it may interest you to know that when this government of His Excellency William Ruto came into power, we were only growing about 5,000 acres of cotton. In 2023, we increased this to 40,000. This year, we are doing 100,000 plus. So we are distributing seed. There are new ginneries that are coming up in Lamu. There's a new ginnery that is coming up in Kwale. There's a new ginnery that is coming up in Homa Bay, in Busia. And the reason why we are doing this is to say that everybody must put on clothes.
Right.
So why are we importing textile?
Right.
Really, this is something we can make.
Right.
This is a low-hanging fruit.
Right.
And so I have been to Malakisi myself. I have worked with farmers. We have distributed seed there. I know that we have plans to put up a new ginnery in Malakisi. And the whole idea is, you see, if you grow cotton, there's no way you're going to make apparel if there's no ginnery to separate the lint from the seed. So when this government came into power in 2022, we only had about 6 ginneries in the whole country. Today, as we talk, we have about 4 new ginneries that are coming up, which will take this to about 10, and we are hoping that the number can continue to increase. What I would say is then we have also spent another 5 billion Kenya shillings to revive Rivertex. Remember, we had textile mills, Mount X, Rivertex, Kikomi, and others that had collapsed. We have spent quite a bit of money to try and revive Rivertex, but Rivertex cannot work if we don't have cotton that has been ginned by the ginneries.
Right.
And so that's why we are working. We have a ginnery in Baringo, we have a ginnery in Bungoma, we have a ginnery in Busia, we have a small ginnery in Siaya. And if we put all this together, then we are able to get the kind of cotton that we are looking for us to be able to make. So what I would like to say is there is a lot of effort. Even when we came in, one of the big challenges that we've had in reviving this sector is lack of seed.
Right.
And because we wanted to expand the area under production, but we realized that we had abandoned the crop. The amount of seed that was available within the country was very little. I want to really say that through the efforts of His Excellency the President, we have even imported 500 metric tons of cotton seed from Chad, from Togo, from Benin, which is in the country now, to really try and boost the area of cotton production. So I would say that this is an area that we are really working on very hard, and we really want to because if you imagine, everybody's putting on a dress. If this dress was made in Kenya, it would generate a lot of jobs, both for the farmers and also for the people that work in the textile industries.
Dr. Juma, just to clarify on the question, because the question that this person has asked, as these generaries are coming up in different regions within the country, the role of tribalism and maybe even politics is standing in the way of these farmers bringing some of their produce to these generaries. How exactly is, the ministry working to eradicate that?
That is quite interesting. Remember, agriculture is a devolved function to the county governments. And within these counties, you find that we have, sometimes, for example, if I reach the area of Malakisi, we have some Luyas, we have some Tesos. For me, what we should be looking at in a ginnery is the economic activities. That I can sell my 200 kilograms of cotton and make my money. The problem is that sometimes we get carried away with this issue of who is the chairman, who is the secretary, is he Teso, is he Luya? I really, in my view, and maybe I'm wrong, that is not very important. The issue is, if I take, if we revive a ginnery and we revive a cooperative society, and I take 300 kilos of my cotton, and the price today is 72 shillings per kilo, the farmers know the price. It's not like they don't know. The issue is, can I get my money from there? If I put 100 kilos in Malakisi, do I get my money? But sometimes now we're asking, so who is the chairman? So who is the treasurer? So is he Luya? Is he Teso? For me, I think that is missing the point. Because the ginnery is not a place for socialization. It's a place for an economic activity. I bring my product, I sell, I make my money, and I think that with the rest of it, we should really not bring it there.
All right.
Yeah.
So don't focus on tribalism. Focus on good policies that can push industrialization.
Yes.
All right. Another comment that's coming in, someone is saying for Kenya industrialization to grow, it needs to go the Vietnam way. What do you think about this, VS?
Yes, and we are quite on the road because Vietnam has grown. As I started here, I wanted to say that we only have a population of 55 million. If you really focus for manufacturing for 55 million people, you can't grow. You become a very small person. Kenya is where it is because we manufacture for the rest of the East Africa. We are producing for the rest of Africa. I said here that nearly 40% of what we produce in Kenya is exported. Vietnam has reached where it is because it is producing for the EU, is producing for the American market. So we are today repurposing Kenya and repositioning Kenya as a manufacturing hub for Africa. So that is why we are part of the East African community. Kenya is signed up to the African Free Continental Free Trade Area. I told you that from 1st of July, we have the Kenya European Union Economic Partnership Agreement. We are at the tail end of negotiating an agreement, the Strategic Partnership Agreement with the US. And we have already signed the Kenya-UK Economic Partnership Agreement. So what Vietnam became what it is by manufacturing for other people. China is what it is because it manufactures for the world. Vietnam is doing the same. Where we are positioning Kenya is your gateway to Africa. If you really want to access the East African market, invest in Kenya, put your manufacturing in Kenya. If you want to access the African market, then put your manufacturing in Kenya. So the policies that we are putting in place for Kenya is to create a country that is a manufacturer for East Africa, a manufacturer for Africa, a manufacturer for the world. And so the policies that we are looking at, and if you started at how are we doing it, you can manufacture on the ocean in Mombasa, at Dongokundu. You can manufacture in Naivasha. You can manufacture, and we are connected to SGR back to Mombasa. You can manufacture in Thika, in Kirinyaga, in Nakuru, in Eldoret, in Busia for the export to Burundi and so on. So the policies that we are putting together are very deliberate for us to make Kenya a manufacturing hub for the world. Why? Because and let me just summarize that. You have a very good and first of all, our position is very good. We are on the ocean. We have a good access to the sea. We have raw materials. We have an educated young workforce that is speaking English, that is able to perform at global you can actually, the Kenyans, the way we are manufacturing and our work ethic and performance is at global stage.
Right.
So we have everything that we need to manufacture for the world. And that's where Vietnam is. That Vietnam is where it is, not because we are manufacturing for the Vietnamese, but they were manufacturing for the rest of the world.
Right.
We want Kenya to be the manufacturing hub for Africa, for the world. And we have opened up markets. Today, if you manufacture in Kenya, you are able to export into the EU, duty-free, quota-free, 14,000 products. You can be able to manufacture in Kenya for the UK, duty-free, quota-free, about 10,000 products.
Right.
We are doing the same for the US. We are doing the same for the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is 55 countries in Africa. For the 8 countries in the EAC, we are part of the tripartite agreement within the SADC. So really, for me, that is where we need to go.
Dr. Juma, as we conclude, the goal is 15% by 2027, 20% by 2030. How achievable is this? Is it possible to hit these goals even earlier?
Yes, as I've said, let me clarify a little bit about this 7% and 15%. Some people think that because the contribution of manufacturing to the GDP used to be 15% and today is 7%, meaning that our manufacturing is declining. I have seen that kind of peddled within our media. I want to say that manufacturing used to contribute 15%. It's like when you have one child, that child contributes 100%. If you get another child, he contributes 50%. If you get a third child, it's 33%. If you get 4 children, the contribution of each child is 25%. But that doesn't mean that these children are becoming less useful.
Right.
What we are saying is that manufacturing used to contribute 15%. Today we have new emerging sectors, internet, ICT, mobile phones. So other children are being born.
Right.
So the contribution of manufacturing to our GDP has declined from 15% to 7.6%, not because we are manufacturing less, but because other children, other sectors are emerging.
Right.
I really want Kenyans to take this.
Right.
And so as we aspire to increase the contribution of manufacturing to the GDP to 15%, we want to say that it's not because our manufacturing is dying, it is because our manufacturing is getting competition from other sectors.
All right.
And
Dr.
then
Juma, just to interrupt you, we just have one follow-up question from one of the viewers. He says, since your visit to the Ginnery on 28th March, you came with cotton seeds. That is, I believe we're still talking about the Malakisi Ginnery. And the seeds were taken to Sirisia, and up to now, most of the growers there are stranded to get seeds for planting, citing that the seeds were meant for Bungoma, and we are cotton growers. How will you help us make our Ginnery grow?
I think that is very sad because we have identified 24 counties that are suitable for cotton production, all the way from Migori, Homa Bay, Kisumu, Siaya, Busia, Bungoma, and we have gone all the way to the other side of Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Makueni, Machakos, Taita Taveta, Kwale, Kilifi, and Tana River, as well as Lamu.
Right.
What we have done this year is as national government, because we are reviving this sector. We've been buying seed and distributing seed free of charge through the county governments of those counties.
Right.
And so we went, I know that we gave free seed to the county government of Bungoma. We have given free seed to the county government of Busia because we know this is an area that can grow cotton. I am saddened if that seed which we provided has not reached the farmers.
So what would be the solution then, PS?
As
now that the problem has already emerged,
we are going to really work with the county government to know why that has not happened, because I know that I just came back from Kwale, where we are doing very good job with cotton growing. I have been to Siaya, I've been to Busia, I've been to Baringo, and I see that we are doing good cotton production.
All right.
I really want to the people of Malakisi, to both the county governments of Bungoma and Busia to ensure that the seed that we provide, because we now have more seed.
Right.
We want to take more seed. We cannot take more seed if the seed we gave them has not been grown.
Right.
Well, I'll find out why, and then
all right.
we'll get
thank you so much, Bwana PS, and I will personally follow up on that particular issue. Thank you so much for watching The Marketplace. We have been talking about manufacturing, but unfortunately our time has run out, but it's been an amazing conversation, even with your contribution. Until next week, same time, same place, have yourselves a very lovely night. My name is Hibak Said.